Call today's meeting of County Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Law, the optional prayer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Sometimes we need a shepherd to help us with the best path to take. Sometimes we are timid or overconfident. We do not want to pretend we know the answers and rush into a dead end or lead others into hazardous places. We need good and bright ideas, using wisdom to lead to the best opportunities. We believe in Jesus as a shepherd to surround us, protect us, and watch over us as we move forward. Amen.
Councilman DiMatteo, would you like to?
We being in Waterford this evening, the 6th District, my home district, I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight. I think everyone sees that we put on the quote-unquote Waterford Chamber of Commerce Day today and got the sun to come out and dry things out a little bit. But again, we have a nice attendance tonight. We have many things to discuss, and thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. At this time, I'm going to ask that Thad Plasinski, the Director of Erie County Veterans Affairs Department, please come forward up here for the presentation of a citation. Told if we stand right over here, we're going to be good. So under this County of Erie citation, whereas construction is underway of a 35,000 square foot Veterans Education Center underground in the field adjacent to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall and near the Lincoln Memorial, a healing place for the friends and families of the fallen soldiers of Vietnam, and whereas the Veterans Education Center will feature photos and other details of the 58,282 service members killed as a result of the Vietnam War and more than 6,600 killed in post-9/11 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, preserving the faces and stories of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And whereas the Vietnam Wall of Faces local initiative began September 6, 2016, a collaborative effort between the Erie County Department of Veterans Affairs, the Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 435, and the Erie VA Medical Center to begin an inventory of pictures of local fallen Vietnam veterans to be placed on the Vietnam Wall of Faces in Washington, D.C. And whereas Thaddeus Plasinski, Director of the Erie County Veterans Affairs Department, understanding and appreciating the magnitude of this collaboration, remained committed to obtaining photos of the 66 known Erie County citizens who lost their lives in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. And whereas Thad worked for 5 months to secure the final 2 photographs, delivering them personally to Jim Knotts, Executive Director of the Wall of Faces, this month in Washington, D.C. Now, therefore, we, the undersigned, members of Erie County Council, join with the grateful citizenry in applauding the work of Thaddeus Plasinski, Director of Veterans Affairs, whose efforts to share the faces of the 66 fallen soldiers of the Vietnam and Middle East conflicts will forever etch their deeds in the edifice of our nation. Thank you, Thad. I'm going to give Thad a chance to speak, but I found out about this through the CCAP, County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, where I sit on the Veterans Board there. And of that, I came across, there were other counties that were doing this effort. They had fewer veterans that they had to locate these photographs for. Certainly because of our size and maybe because of other reasons, we had probably the largest number of veterans, and not in the state, but out of many other counties, so that we needed to obtain the photos for this effort. And Thad had taken it by the horns, and to be able to deliver it in person and hand is something else. Thad, would you like to speak?
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. Throughout my career, 6 years in the Navy, active duty, 25 years as a polymer chemist, 2 different employers. I was even a registered nurse for 3 years, practicing in the recovery room and operating room. And really no greater honor has ever been bestowed on me with regard to doing something so worthwhile. And that's why I took it personally, since I'm a peacetime vet. And there is no way that I could possibly even fathom what the loved ones friends, neighbors, etc., lost because of these veterans, lost their lives on the battlefield or as a result of their wounds. So when I was given this opportunity, I really wanted to make it count, and through a lot of help from the citizens of friends, relatives, neighbors of Erie County and from other states actually helped me retrieve these pictures. So I was the messenger. I collected them, but it was fortuitous in that I had a class in Washington, D.C. Within a day. Like Friday was the day that we retrieved the last picture, and Sunday was actually the first day of classes for the Veterans Treatment Court. So the rest of it was pretty logical. It was a cab ride to the Wall of Faces and met with the executive director, and it was touching. I mean, they really gave it the respect that it's due. And thank you for the opportunity, Jay. I will treasure this. This will go into our office to remind the staff that while Thad was out shaking hands and introducing and inviting himself into places that I've never been before, like the American Legions and VFWs, to get the word out, they were holding down the fort. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Smith.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Here.
Mrs. Fatica,
Here.
Dr. Faust,
Here.
Mr. Leone,
Here.
Mrs. Law,
Here.
Mr. Horton,
Here.
Chairman Brenneman.
Here. Hearing of the public, those who called ahead will have 5 minutes. Those who did not will have 3. We have 2 citizens who called ahead. First up would be Rita. You'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
My name is Rita Yannion. I'm a resident of the city of Erie, an employee of the county of Erie, and currently serve as president and chief steward for AFSCME Local 2666, representing almost 400 members and employees in Erie County. A resolution is before you today providing a revised pay plan for the staff at Public Safety, including a revised pay structure for the AFSCME members to be effective for 2018, as the new bargaining unit agreement will be negotiated at the end of next year. I have reviewed the pay structure proposed by Felice and Associates for the Public Safety Bargaining Unit staff, and I am pleased that efforts are being made to provide a wage that strives to recruit and retain new staff at Public Safety. As you know, for a long time now, many of the new hires have left the county's employ once they completed their schooling and received state certification and International Academy of Emergency Dispatching certification, because there are any number of other employers who offer a better compensation package than what the county currently does. In 2016, over a 6-week period, Public Safety lost 8 telecommunicators. The gravity of this kind of turnover really hits home when you realize that there needs to be a minimum of 8 telecommunicators on duty each shift of the 24/7 operation. A whole shift of workers was lost over the course of 6 weeks due to the fact that those workers obtained other local employment in their field with better compensation than what the county was offering. The turnover percentage at Public Safety, according to Human Resources, is 32%. This has left the department stressed and overworked, as the remaining staff is mandated to work additional hours to cover the staffing losses until new workers are hired and trained. Mandated. They have no choice but to stay an additional 4 hours beyond their scheduled shift, frequently not finding out that they will be forced to stay and work an additional 4 hours until minutes before their shift was scheduled to end. Management does make every effort to post the need for coverage on various shifts, and many of the current workers step up to work and cover the need, many times working double shifts, 16 straight hours. Unlike most jobs, they cannot leave the premises during a shift. They can't go out to lunch or dinner. There's no windows in the call center, and the people they are assisting are in crisis and can be difficult at best to deal with. I was privileged to spend 5 hours of my own time sitting in with the men and women on the 2nd and 3rd shifts the evening of June 13th. It gave me some real insight into what is expected and the dedication these workers have to this community. Not just a tour of the facility, I actually listened in on calls with telecommunicators. Observed the fire dispatcher attempt to find help for a caller when the local volunteer company did not respond to the first or second request for assistance. Saw the multitasking abilities of police dispatchers in handling multiple calls for multiple disturbances. If you are able, I would encourage you all to sit in with these professionals and see why it is so important to provide compensation to keep these well-trained men and women working for the county. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, however, that the revised pay scale for existing staff does not equally treat the existing employees, some of whom have worked at public safety since the beginning, and many of whom are currently responsible for the on-the-job training provided to new hires once they complete their schooling. While it does provide increases to their 2017 wages beyond what the rest of the AFSCME members will receive, it does not compensate them for the achievements that they have made to date. I hope that this can be rectified when the next contract is bargained. AFSCME represents almost 400 men and women employed by Erie County, without whom there would be no free clinics at the health department, no story times at the public libraries, no marriage licenses being issued for couples looking to make a commitment to each other, not to mention the dozens of clerical staff who handle all manner of typing, filing, data entry, things that keep every single department in this county running the way it does. I've only mentioned a few of the many things that are made possible because AFSCME makes Pennsylvania and Erie County strong. Finally, I would like to thank Sabrina Fisher and the Human Resources Department, as well as John Grappy and his management staff for including AFSCME in the discussions and planning for this proposed resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Randy Barnes? Not here. Any citizen that wishes to speak, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Anyone from the public, state your name and municipality, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm James Donnell. I work at the Erie County Department of Public Safety. I've been a telecommunicator there for 8 years. I did send you all an email today. I'm not sure if you guys received it and had a chance to review it before coming in here. To those that did not get it, basically it was a thank you to everybody involved for putting this pay scale together. Everybody realizes we're well underpaid. They're trying to do what's best to correct it. Human Resources came up to explain how this is all going to work to us, and without looking hard at the numbers, I don't think people realized how off that it actually is. There were some examples, excuse me, some examples in the email that were shown, and I have copies if you guys would like to see them later. But people that are lower than us in seniority with less training in this matrix are going to pass our pay scale. Somebody that is less qualified than myself with less years of service will make more money than me, and it's just wrong, morally, ethically, everything involved. A lot of the pay scale is very good for a lot of the new people. There's 10 to 12 people that are really going to be hurt by this, and with bargaining, it just doesn't work in the new contracts. It needs to be addressed prior to this being passed. I urge that everybody here tables this until everybody can sit down, take a hard look at the numbers, and figure out what's fair for everybody. We're trying to fix a pay matrix in the county that's been wrong for so many years. Let's not fix it with something that's incorrect as well. Let's get it right this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone else from the public? Please, sir, come up to the podium. State your name and municipality, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
David Babbitt of Washington Township. I want to know where the senior citizens are going to get the money to pay for these raises. We got no raise, got one last year for what, like $7 to pay for Medicare. I said, we can't keep paying these exorbitant property tax to give these people raises. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Seeing no one else from the public wishing to speak, we'll move on. Minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of the June 13th regular meeting and the June 27th special meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call.
On the minutes, Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Reports of county officials, county executives designee. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick
comments. Tonight, council, the county executive asked me to appear here and pass this on. First of all, she's pleased to announce that the waiting area for Central Court is now functional and operational. There are benches in there that should alleviate some of the problems in the courthouse. That's been a long time coming, and she wanted to say thank you for your efforts along that line. Also, she asked me to thank council for its diligent effort in working on the pay plan. We know there was a lot of time and effort involved, especially involving the three committee members, Councilman Lowell, DiMatteo, and Co-Chairman Horton. And once again, she would like to acknowledge council's efforts taking the lead in this pay plan, and she just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee, we met last Thursday, and we agreed to move items A through G and J through Q to under new business. That concludes the Finance Committee report. Under Personnel Committee, Mr. Leon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's 3 items under personnel. Of course, one is the second reading ordinance 65, which is the pay plan, and also an amended human resource code, previously called the personnel code. And the other 2 items would be one is for the planning department, which is a grant. It isn't going to cost the county anything, so I'm asking for a second reading from that. That would be ordinance 74. And ordinance 73 is a change from 2 juvenile probation officers to 2 adult pro-officers, and no change in salary. They're just moving into different positions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Reports of other members of council. Councilwoman Fatika.
Yes, on July 24th, I attended the Board of Health meeting. Masters of Public Health students presented information from 2 research projects done in cooperation with the Erie County Department of Health. Dr. Narveen Jandu researched Erie City and Erie County lead testing of the populations at risk for elevated blood levels and the results of those tested. While the city and county fall within acceptable norms, a follow-up with mapping may yield target areas for future investigation. Also, Alex Iorio presented information on existing needle exchange programs and their role as a vital efforts to combat opioid, HIV, and hepatitis epidemics. The Syringe Service Program of Allegheny County is community-based and provides a pathway to services to prevent drug use, HIV, and hepatitis. It includes referral services for healthcare, mental health, and substance abuse services, much like a warm handoff. And funding such programs is available through the CDC based on drug use, HIV, and hepatitis B and C rates. Philadelphia's program was established in 1992 by then Mayor Ed Rendell, and Allegheny County's program was established by County Council in 2007, with Department of Health responsible to oversee and review the data. On July 12th, I attended a meeting of the Public Safety Advisory Committee. Director John Grappi provided updates on the Next Gen Radio project and the implementation of the Next Generation Radio website. Emergency Medical Services Chairman Bill Haggerty reported the Erie County, Pennsylvania Mass Casualty Incident Plan has been developed as an operations guide for the management of field medical operations. This plan is based on the incident command system, and the components may be expanded or contracted as necessary. The plan may be initiated at any time the resources are available at the incident, and if they are insufficient to meet the needs of the operations or structured organizations required. Now, these guidelines have been developed for use as a framework by fire departments, EMS agencies, dispatch centers, hospitals, government and non-government agencies and organizations that may be called to assist in a mass casualty incident. The plan is not meant to replace traditional training incidents, and hazardous materials or anything else that would be applicable in those disciplines. Rather, it is designed to establish the framework. A copy of the MCI response in the form of a Go Kit, pardon me, will be distributed to all agencies. And Bill Haggerty and I have been and are in the process of contacting some health-related organizations for funding to help offset the cost of printing, which would be about $10,000. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I would like to just give a brief update. This past weekend, I attended the National Association of Counties annual conference in Columbus. While there, I attended just about every workshop known to man that they had, from topics about managing millennials, something I know nothing about, no, just kidding, and working with immigrant populations, and also some workforce development ones. But the most compelling one was the town hall that was facilitated by the county executive, Kathy Dahlkemper, and other county officials from around the country on the opioid epidemic. Also there was Erie County Executive Mark Polengratz from Erie County, New York. What he has done is he has actually filed a lawsuit against the pharmaceutical companies to pay for the damage and the expense that the opioid addictions and the deaths and everything else around that, kind of like it happened before years ago with the tobacco industry. So he's been a leading voice in that as well, and he discussed some of the things that they're working on and how they went from basically well behind the country in addressing the opioid crisis, and now they're taking a lead. And they've also have adopted some policies and procedures at the county level, albeit their county structure is a little bit different than ours. But from that, the state of New York took Erie County, New York's guidelines on prescribing and made that a statewide policy. And there the county was taking the lead and the state followed suit, and other states are looking at following that as well. One of the other things that was recommended by the CDC, who was there at the panel, and also some representatives from organizations that work to prevent drug addiction to begin with. They say one of the biggest things you could do is focus on prevention when it comes to Narcan and some of the other things, even getting money from the drug companies. That's really reactive. It's really the tourniquet rather than the solution. And they advise certain things as far as getting the word out, having more conversations about this in the community, because it is impacting every stratosphere or every strata of our community, of our society. One thing that they did recommend was having a needle exchange program. It's something that's been working for decades throughout the country, even more recently in Indiana. These safe needle exchanges, safe places where they are coupled with comprehensive programs, such as linking them to therapy program and recovery programs, treatment options. But also it was done because, as Councilwoman Fatika had talked about, with this uptick in 300,000 people died from the opioid crisis in the past decade nationwide, right? In the past few years, it's been more than those who were killed in the Vietnam War. We're really seeing thousands die every single day. But what they also found from that uptick was the increase of HIV and hepatitis C, which is both are very treatable and curable for hepatitis C. Right? You're a nurse.
Now it is.
Okay, now it is. And so they advised counties to try to implement these type of programs, because it'll reduce the spread of these terrible diseases, and it will also provide a safe place where those who are addicted can have a comfortable and first connection to treatment, so they can start the recovery. But also it provides them a secondary option of providing information. They can take that information and take it to their peers who are also addicted but maybe want to go to a needle exchange site, and from there the impact grows even further. But there's a number of other things. I'll be bringing those that I'll be going through everything that I've come across, even talking to HR about working with millennials although I think 90% of the office is millennials, right? So, but I just wanted to share some of the information. Of course, I will be a little bit more active soon on addressing the opioid crisis in Erie County. So, moving on, we have under old business, Doug, second reading of ordinance number 65 in title only, please.
The second reading of ordinance number 65, 2017, adoption of the Erie County Human Resources Code, position classification plan, pay plan, ASME C/T telecommunicators, 2018 pay schedule, and non-bargaining employee 2018 pay rate increase provisions.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Leon.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Horton. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. DiMatteo.
I have two requests. I request that we separate this, where we will vote on the Human Resource Code separate from the pay plan along with the AFSCME telecommunicators. Secondly, I guess I would like to say that it is a point of reference for those who are here. To Mr. Donnell's point, I wish it could be tabled. There doesn't seem to be an appetite for that to take place. As a history to this, and I'm sure my colleagues are tired of hearing about this from me, I was the one who brought this resolution forward in December of 2015. That being said, it was never my intent, and on the committee ourselves, when we met with police and the other departments at the county, it was never my intent, and I was very verbal with this, that this would result in pay increases for the county employees. Police and Associates told us that there would be numerous ways that we could implement this new pay matrix, okay? My thought was we could do it through attrition. There's other ways we could do it. This pay plan and pay scale could be implemented without giving everyone raises. I understand, as Mr. Donnell said, there would be some growing pains associated with that, unfortunately. Now, I will just say, I spoke with one of your colleagues the other day concerning this. It is my understanding, with speaking to the Human Resource Department at the county, that the only way those people would make more money than you is if they complete all of their certifications, where they would jump ahead. It wouldn't be initial that would take place. Not that makes that right, okay? My thought being, though, if it's going to take place and the majority of council wishes to implement this pay plan, I had thought it would be best that maybe that should be done at budget time, where we know we are for 2018 going forward, exactly as far as dollars and cents go, okay? Again, the vote will be what the vote will be. I'm not voting in favor of this. This has nothing to do with the county employees, most notably the people at the telecommunications and public safety. I think you guys, and I'm just not telling you this, Mr. Graffi can attest, I think you guys are some of the hardest working employees in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a thankless job, it's an ugly job, it's a dirty job. I've talked to a lot of people who work up there, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. But trying to fix things, okay, and not doing it the correct way is what got us into the problem where we stand right now. So my vote tonight will not be in favor of the pay plan. I will vote in favor of the Human Resource Code to at least bring that into the 21st century. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leon.
I would assume if we're going to vote for separately, let's take the pay plan, or not the pay plan, let's take the Human Resources Code first, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Can I ask for another point of clarification?
Yes, Dr. Faust.
Mr. DiMatteo, are you asking for a separation of 2 items or 3 items?
Just 2 items. Just 2 items. I would leave the actual increase of pay, the increase of pay, the matrix, with the telecommunicators separate from the Human Resource Code. Those 2 pieces can be together. The Human Resource Code would be separate.
Any other discussion? Roll call on the amended Human Resources Code, Mr. Smith.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Roll call on the pay plan, please.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leon?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
No.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Moving on to new business,
Chairman.
Dr. Faust.
Move to make second readings of ordinances 66 through and including ordinance number 74 tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call?
On the motion, Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 66 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 66, 2017, 2017 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $19,965, Homeland Security grant for purchase of mobile forensic tool.
Moved by Mr. Leone,
Second.
seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 66, Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 67 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 67, 2017, 8th 2017 library fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $16,700 from increases in donations from Friends of the Library, Erie Regional Library Foundation, and fee revenue.
So, second?
Moved by Mr. Leone, seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 67, Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 68 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 68, 2017, 5th 2017 capital projects fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $70,000 for additional funding of library skyline.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Leone and seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 68, Mr. DiMatteo?
No.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
No.
Mr. Horton?
No.
Mr. Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 69 in title only. Under two companion.
A second reading of ordinance number 69, 2017, 27th 2017 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $70,000 transfer to capital projects for library skylight replacement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 69, Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
No.
Mr. Horton?
No.
Mr. DiMatteo?
No.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 70 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 70, 2017, 6th 2017 Public Health Fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $8,000 for immunization fees increase.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Leone. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 70, Dr. Faust?
Yes.
Mr. Leone?
Yes.
Mrs. Law?
Yes.
Mr. Horton?
Excuse me.
On ordinance 70, Mr. Horton?
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo?
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika?
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman?
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 71 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 71, 2017, 28, 2017 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $147,650 to drug forfeiture line.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Leone, second by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call?
An ordinance 71, Mr. Leone.
Yes.
Mrs. Law.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika.
Yes.
Dr. Faust.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 72 in title only.
The second reading of ordinance number 72, 2017, authorizing the purchase of real property located at the corner of Clemens Road and Loop Road in Waterford Township, Erie County, Pennsylvania.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fatika, seconded by Councilman Leone. Any discussion? Roll call?
An ordinance 72, Mrs. Law.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika.
Yes.
Dr. Faust.
Yes.
Mr. Leone.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 73 in title only.
The second reading of ordinance number 73, 2017, 29, 2017 general fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $44,797 to fund balance from the elimination of 2 juvenile probation officer positions and the creation of 2 adult probation officer positions.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Leone, seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Smith.
On ordinance 73, Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika.
Yes.
Dr. Faust.
Yes.
Mr. Leone.
Yes.
Mrs. Law.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Second reading of ordinance number 74 in title only.
A second reading of ordinance number 74, 2017, second 2017 planning fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $13,061 and new line items for creation of Water Resource Program, MS4, grant coordinator position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Leone, seconded by Councilwoman Fatika. Any discussion? Roll call?
On ordinance 74, Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika.
Yes.
Dr. Faust.
Yes.
Mr. Leone.
Yes.
Mrs. Law.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Possible adoption of resolution number 29 in its entirety, please, Mr. Smith.
Resolution number 29, 2017, in support of online accessibility of county board and authority information for public understanding, input, and participation. Whereas Erie County government relies greatly on volunteer assistance of citizens from all walks of life to become involved and to make a contribution by serving on county boards and authorities. And whereas the management of boards and authorities involves tracking the seats that are currently vacant, terms that are soon to expire, terms that are set to expire within a year, and terms that have expired but still have members serving in a holdover status. And whereas some boards and authorities may require a special area of expertise, while others a general public perspective from good hardworking citizens to carry out taxpayer-funded mission for public good, and whereas for the first time in history the county seeks to establish a transparent online resource that could provide information to candidates looking to serve on county boards, commissions, and authorities, featuring an online interface to apply for and to find both current and future vacancies. And whereas such an online tool would make it easier for elected officials to reach and identify a larger pool of candidates, expand the diversity of potential candidates, give citizens a greater understanding of the roles of these authorities and boards, their missions, and clarity on who is designated to make decisions on the public's behalf. And whereas counties like Allegheny and Center as well as cities of Scranton and Allentown, have already taken this step to enhance public access, understanding, and opportunity to volunteer. Therefore, be it resolved by the County Council of the County of Erie that a plan is formulated before the 2018 budget passage for the online presentation of all boards and authorities, links to their websites, their bylaws, their mission, a current list of appointees, and a listing of all vacancies online, and a web-based application system for potential candidates.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Faust. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Fatika. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Mr. Horn.
Yeah, the only thing that I have that gives me pause is the time requirement that be done by the 2018 budget, which I'm pleased as punch. Anytime that the county operates in a spirit of transparency, I think it's a great initiative and a good step. But I could do without the timeline.
And that's a great point, Councilman. The reason why I had put in a specific timeline was because in talking with the administration, there's a new county website that's set to roll out around that time. So it was meant to kind of fit in with the same rollout. That way they're not doing double work. But
my concern was I didn't want to cause burden to our IT department or whoever was responsible. If it's something that they could accomplish in a timely manner, then by all means. But other than that, I couldn't support mandating, giving them additional duties on such short notice. We're into basically August, and the budget's coming to us, going to be handed to you the 1st of October. So.
Mr. Smith, what's the date on the bottom of the resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Dr. Faust.
I don't disagree with anything that Mr. Horton said. It does say, though, that a plan needs to be formulated, not necessarily all those links are made, et cetera. So that gives us a little bit of leeway. And two, as a resolution, it doesn't have the authority of law that an ordinance would have behind it. So if we miss our timeline, great, it's not the end of the world. I think we'll make a good faith effort at it.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
On Resolution 29, Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leon,
No.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Possible adoption of resolution number 30 in title only.
Resolution number 30, 2017, approving sole vendor contract between the Department of Public Safety and Nokia for the procurement of microwave system, MPLS.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fatika and seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? Roll call.
On Resolution 30, Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Possible adoption of resolution number 31 in its entirety.
Resolution number 31, 2017, in support of a statewide comprehensive clean air, indoor air resolution. Whereas the County Council have consistently expressed concerns about the effects of secondhand smoke in public places and workplaces, and whereas with the passage of Act 27, Pennsylvania took a major step forward by removing secondhand smoke in about 95% of workplaces and public areas in this Commonwealth. And whereas unfortunately the exemptions in Act 27 allow for Pennsylvanians to be exposed to the harms of secondhand smoke in places like bars, casinos, outdoor sports, and recreational facilities. Whereas all workers in Pennsylvania deserve to be protected from the harms of secondhand smoke, and whereas a comprehensive Clean Indoor Air Act would prohibit smoking in all indoor facilities, protecting Pennsylvanians from secondhand smoke exposure. Whereas County Council recognizes that a county has limited abilities to address this issue due to preemption, and that a statewide resolution to the issue of secondhand smoke in public places and workplaces is the most appropriate way to address this issue, now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of the County of Erie supports comprehensive clean indoor air and encourages the General Assembly to work cooperatively to initiate the removal of secondhand smoke exposure in all public places on a statewide basis.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fatika and seconded by Dr. Faust. Any discussion? I would just like to point out that there is a four-letter word in that, and in my belief, and it's called preemption. It's something that Pennsylvania suffers from probably more than any other state, where local decision-making is taken out of our hands quite regularly, even as recent as April, by our own state legislature, where we are left to try to request and hope the state can pass things on our behalf, even though other states and in the past our own communities have had the ability to do so. And it's something that I know that many elected officials from around the country are trying to push back in. It's kind of a new thing, trying to centralize power and decision making in Harrisburg, and I just want to keep that on everybody's radar. Every time you hear the word preemption, or if you're not looking at it, if you're not aware of things that are coming in Harrisburg, like what happened in April, where our decision making is preempted by Harrisburg, you should keep an eye out for that now and in the future. So with that, roll call, Mr. Smith.
On Resolution 31, Mr. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes.
10-letter
Four. It's four in my.
I'm just
four in mine.
state that for the
I
record.
counted as well, Mr. DiMatteo.
10 letters.
Please note for the record, Mr. Smith, that it's a 10. Do I have a motion on item M?
I'd
Possible
like to
appointment?
make a motion to appoint Heather Canfield to a 3-year term on the Erie County Library Advisory Board.
Moved by Councilwoman Law,
Second.
second by Mr. Horton. Any discussion? Roll call on the appointment?
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leon,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr.
move to
Faust.
table the appointments itemized in our agenda tonight by letters N, O, and P.
Moved by Dr. Faust,
Second.
second by Mr. Horton. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
On the motion, Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Faust?
move to approve the sale of parcels from the repository for unsold properties according to the index numbers listed in our agenda tonight.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Faust and seconded by Mr. Horton. Any discussion? Roll call?
On the sale of parcels, Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatika,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Leon,
Yes.
Mrs. Law,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Brenneman.
Yes. Before we adjourn, I'd like to just make note to everybody here, those watching at home, and those in the audience here, that Erie County will be hosting this annual conference of the County Commissioner Association of Pennsylvania. It's coming up in a week and a half, and it's going to take place at the Convention Center. We have hundreds of county officials from around the state coming back to Erie. They had such a great time in 2013 that they decided to come back early, and so we'll be hosting them soon. So, and many of them are coming, from what I hear, many of them are coming early and staying later because they're going to make a vacation of it. So they'll be spending their dollars from all the other counties from around the state right here in Erie. Dr. Faust?
If I could just add that is an event that we could never have hosted had we not done the Bayfront Hotel and the Convention Center as we did. All of those millions of dollars that are pouring in, or I should say coming in anyway, we would have lost out had we not done, taking the initiative on that particular project.
I think as a matter of fact, by every county official who's been to Erie before that, for a conference or convention.
And what Erie has to offer is why that we got back on the list so quickly and why people are so excited about coming back.
I believe, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Leon?
I believe that probably Tuesday, we'll take a vote for where they're going to go in the next 5 years. And Erie will be on that particular ballot, and I hope that all they go there and tend to vote for it. It wasn't just the building of the hotel or the convention center was the first part, but there was a lot of effort from many of the members that were here previously through CCAP and an effort to try and bring them here to see Erie. I can remember when I first went to CCAP, most people didn't even know where Erie was part of Pennsylvania, and that's the truth. That is the truth. They know where it's at now.
That's right. Okay.
And
Yes,
as
Mr. Mattia.
as Mr. Maloney said, the wine and the beer didn't, the microbrews didn't hurt either. So.
We stand adjourned.